Greetings and welcome to the University of Minnesota Alumni Association's webinar series. My name is John Ruzek and I'm the Senior Director of Alumni Networks here at the University of Minnesota. Thank you to all the alumni and friends who have made time to join us live today. We are very excited about this webinar as we've talked with alumni and friends about different career topics. We've talked some things about networking this past fall, but another one of the really big topics on people's mind was about interviewing. And so today's webinar will be talking about all those elements of how to really effectively excel in your interview process. Today's webinar is part of a free series being offered by the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, where we're having these conversations with experts about career, life, and learning topics. And we have webinars up and running now between now and May. And this webinar is being recorded and will be viewable afterwards at minnesotaalumni.org/webinars. So just give us a few business days to post it on our website. And if you're on Twitter right now, feel free to use the hashtag UMNWebinar. We'd love to hear from you, and if we have a sec, perhaps field some questions too. Upcoming webinars here on February 5th, Rand Park of the Carlson School is going to be talking about ethics and career success. So there'll be some business examples, but it's definitely going to be for people across all different industries, and Rand's a very engaged presenter. And then on February 18th, we have Mary Rogers talking about organic food and farming, and then also just plugging some upcoming career webinars in April too. So check those out again, minnesotaalumni.org/webinars. And lastly, since you are connecting with us virtually, we do have an event coming up on February 10th. That's a virtual career advice where we're asking alumni really to provide their expertise to help current students. The U of M has a big job fair coming up February 19th, and we'd love to have you join us online to help give advice and career suggestions to current students. And if you're interested, there's the URL below, and also it was in the past alumni angle as well that just went out this month. Audio options, you have joined this presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you'd prefer to listen over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane of your GoToWebinar panel, and dial-in information will be displayed. And if you experience audio difficulties while listening, you may have multiple applications up on your computer. Just close out all unnecessary applications. If you're on wireless, you might want to move to a hardwired connection. That can help with audio options. Questions, we want to hear questions from you today. Elizabeth wants to hear questions from you. So feel free to type those in the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll monitor them along the way, and we think this is going to be a really fun and engaging conversation, and we do want to hear from you. So now it is my pleasure to introduce today's webinar speaker, Elizabeth Craig, an internationally certified career coach and job transition strategist, award-winning speaker, author, coach, and consultant. As CEO of ELC Global, she assists job seekers, college graduates, mid-career professionals, and those 50 plus in the job search process. She has over 25 years career planning expertise in choice and direction and effective job search techniques, helping clients find meaningful and rewarding work. And she also holds a Bachelor of Science with distinction from the College of Education and Human Development here at the University of Minnesota. And most importantly, she is an enthusiastic life member of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Elizabeth to our webinar.
Hi there, John, and hi everyone who's here today. Thank you so much for the awesome introduction, John. Really appreciated it, and I'm really excited to speak on one of the most important topics that has been requested by students and alumni on interviewing skills, preparation, execution, really follow through during the interview, and follow up afterwards. So here we are, off and ready to roll. So as we're going through this, we wanted to launch a poll, and we will maybe bring it up at this point if John would like it, or we can actually just skip it entirely and go from there. And here we are. Is John not amazing? He has this quick poll already up, and this poll will allow you to for me to know and for you to see who else is participating today. So if you're a student or recent graduate, go ahead and click that poll box. If you're returning to work after not working, if you're seeking to transition to a new career field, a mid-career professional, or perhaps retired and seeking more meaningful work. So we'll see those poll numbers coming here in just a second.
Yeah, we'll give about a couple more seconds for people to file in. We have over 80% of people responded, and so 1 sec, we'll close that poll and now share it. And a really good cross-section of folks. Can you see that, Elizabeth?
I am able to see that, and it's really exciting that we have the mid-career professionals here, and the student and recent graduates, and then also seeking to transition to a new career field are the top 3. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate knowing who's in the room today. This is wonderful.
And apologies, okay, there, you're back in. Okay.
I am just perfect, John. Thank you. So today I am going to be speaking about the top skills for successful interviewing, covering preparation, covering follow-through, and covering follow-up to land those job offers. And you're going to notice that I am going to be spending quite a bit of time on the preparation, because once you do the preparation, it makes everything else just soar. And I'm going to be speaking about a lot of things, so I definitely hope that you all have a piece of paper handy and something to write with so you can start taking notes right away. So one of the things that really seems to be the thing that you need to start with is mindset. And so attitude and mindset is just so important to begin preparing for interviews. And this happens to be one of my favorite quotes, "Enthusiasm is the engine of success," by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And when I put this on the end of emails, people will even write back to me, "Love that Emerson quote." So you may think as I go through some of these of your favorite quotes that inspire you, and also write those down and keep those in front of you. Earl Nightingale said that there is no luck. Luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, and opportunity is always present. So today what I also want you to do a lot of is to think about the capabilities that you can energize during your interviews, the accomplishments that you will be able to leverage. What are your top 3 accomplishments that you'd want to be sure to have a story around to tell in that interview, and also to connect with meaningful and rewarding work, that work that you're going after. Another favorite quote, "A person's mind, once stretched to a new idea, never goes back to its original dimensions." I'm really hopeful that you, and have planned, that you will learn some new things that many people are not doing in interviews today, and that do seem to make all the difference. And whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you are right. So this positive mindset really prepares you for confidence, that belief, persistence, determination in the interviews process, so that you really feel that you can be successful at it, and actually that it's really a whole lot of fun. And one of the first things that I start with is a smile. Now, what is interesting about a smile is that it is the shortest distance between 2 people, and it is the only language, the body language, that is understood worldwide. And employers today and people who are interviewing you, they tell me over and over again, they want to see people smile. They actually want you to be relaxed and comfortable and having a good time in the interview as well, and know that it's actually an exchange between information between you and them. They're not just there to ask questions of you, they really want to engage you in it. And I have this award-winning picture here of my nephew Ryan. When he was 5, he actually won a computer off of that smile that you see. And he's now 24, and that same smile has carried him to many places in his career already. You'll note where I have the name tag on his shirt. On the jacket there, it says, "Hello, my name is Ryan." You want to always, when you're at meetings, put your name tag on your right shoulder, up in that area, so that when you shake hands with people, extend your hand, they're then following your arm right up to remember your name. And that's the key thing all the way through this process, that you do want people to remember your name. Most important. There are 3 elements of this communication that go on during really all communication that we have, and I'm sure many of you have seen this before. A study by Albert Moravian, who is currently Professor Emeritus of Psychology at UCLA. And this is his 738-55 rule, where body language is really the key thing. So it's one of the reasons I really speak about this. You don't want to take your clothes to the cleaners and clean them just before you're going for an interview and not have them fit. So be sure that everything is lined up that will make this just really comfortable for you so that you can shine in that interview. And you'll notice then tone is the second highest thing in the elements of communication at 38%. And I think often people worry about the words so much, what they've either written or put in printed things, and it's really more about really the tone and the body language that is coming across in your interview. And I have to thank John for one of the coolest photos that he sent me. This was when he was stopping to get gas, and he said, "Elizabeth, I know how much you love talking about smiles," and he took this with his camera and sent it to me. And I wanted to include it today because this is on the window next to a gas station door where everyone's coming in to pay for their gas. So what do you think that does even for the people who are walking through that door? They probably put a smile on their face as they're going to that cash register, and that entire station is just filled with positivity. And truly, a smile does add to your face value. So interviews can be productive, even enjoyable, as I've been speaking about. And if you are properly prepared, that truly happens. Don't just let the interviews happen to you. You definitely want to take charge. So took a look at how interview is actually defined. And it is defined as meeting for asking questions, responding to questions, and then this means both the interviewer's questions of you and also your questions. So you definitely want to be ready to ask a question or more than one question at the end of an interview in particular, but even throughout the interview, if something comes to mind where it works, go ahead and ask that question. You really want to make it a conversation. Now, the next thing I want to speak about, and I'm going to speak about this for a bit because this is one of the most powerful things that you want to prepare prior to going for an interview. And I put this really early in this presentation so that you would start even thinking during this presentation, what else can I add to my professional career portfolio? What a professional career portfolio is it is a compilation of your accomplishments, your certificates, your degrees, all of that information is compiled so that then during the interview, when it's appropriate, in fact, what I have clients do is just get some of the regular 3-ring notebooks, get clear plastic sleeves that go inside the 3-ring notebook, and just keep collecting everything. So if you get a recommendation from someone, you're going to want to put it in one of the clear plastic sleeves. If you get, what I have clients do also, when they get an email from someone and it's like, oh, you know, Elizabeth, you really did this great, or John, hey, you're phenomenal at this, and James, this was really great in this meeting that you brought up that information. So actually collect all of those positive things that people will say about you in emails as you're going through your workday, and then compile them on one sheet. I've literally had people hired for final interviews and hired off of the fact that they had so much support from the people who worked with them and who knew them through quotes that it really sealed the deal. The portfolio then is one, after you've collected all of the things that you want to put in it, when you're actually going to the interview, you're going to want to select just those things that will be the most helpful to you. And what the career portfolio does is it's the portable proof. So it shows the related examples of what you've done that's similar to the work that you're wanting to do, that you're going for this interview in. So you're actually making the match and showing them right there that you are the perfect person to hire. And I have just a couple of quick examples to tell you about this. So a recent new college graduate, since we have many of them in the room today, I wanted to tell this story right off the top here. He put together his professional career portfolio and had a wonderful recommendation from one of his professors, because as a new college graduate, he didn't have a lot of other work experience to put down. And it happened when he was then in his interview, the interviewer asked him, do you happen to have have you worked across genders and across cultures? How much experience do you have working with people in many different ways and places? And what was so perfect, I could just see him beaming as he was telling me this afterwards over the phone. He was able to open up his professional career portfolio and show the recommendation from the professor that said exactly that. That Jim is absolutely perfect with working with all cultures and people at all various levels. And this is a situation that just happened on December 27th that this interview took place. He actually started his new job on January 4th. And why I mentioned that right here too at the moment is don't ever think that a holiday is a time not to be working. So you're getting interviews if you do want to switch jobs. Really, every time of year, you want to just keep moving through. And I often find that people will wait until after Labor Day to start looking for a job, and yet I will have in the middle of the summer on the 4th of July had someone interview with a president of a company and start work right there in the middle of July. So know that really it's a year-round process today to really change positions and to go after that. One more example where this professional career portfolio really worked. This was a person who was in a sales position, and she knew that she wanted to do a professional career portfolio, and she said to me on a Friday evening, she goes, Elizabeth, we need to meet for half an hour. I want to go over with you exactly what I'm going to put in my professional career portfolio. She had 2 interviews lined up for the same job. So she had one interview on one Tuesday at 10, and already the second interview was set up for the next Tuesday at 10. It ended up that she never had the second interview because in the first 20 minutes of her very first interview, she was able to show them exactly her process because she put it in her professional career portfolio. She had to make it her own because she could not take examples from a prior company she worked for, but she put together her own process as to how she would do it for this firm. They saw it, and in the first 20 minutes, they were asking her, is this salary going to be all right? Would you be okay with these benefits? And she called me up right after, and she said, Elizabeth, I think they're offering me the job. And sure enough, by the next Tuesday, she was already in the job. So this professional career portfolio, it's known to help people, number one, as you see already, land faster, and also early on, I've been using these since 2003 with clients. They also end up with higher compensation as well. So, and here's just one more example of how it helped a client. I do have to say, this was a business process analyst, a mid-career professional, changing industries and jobs. I do have to say it was the shortest interview I have had, less than 30 minutes, but I was able to use the portfolio to show the interviewer how I approach things. I think that sealed the deal. Again, thanks for your help. So what it does, it helps you present yourself professionally in information that they're able to see, and you want to continue presenting yourself professionally and positively everywhere. When using today's technology, you have to be sure that you have everything, your outgoing voicemail message, how you leave messages, your cell phone, emails, blog posts. Truly, your professionalism is always on stage. So into some more with the interview preparation. yes, Google is your best friend. So Google your own name because you want to know what those interviewing you are going to be doing, and they will be doing this. They are going to be searching your name and seeing what comes up. You're also going to want to spend time researching the company very thoroughly. So do this in many different ways. Many companies today have blogs themselves. You'll want to go into those. So be sure and take a look there. And yes, LinkedIn is also your best friend. And LinkedIn has an advanced search tool where everyone on LinkedIn that works at a firm will show up. And I'll show you just quickly in a moment about that. And you do want to ask to connect on LinkedIn to those who you know in the firm, and especially to those you will be interviewing with. So the individual Jim that I told you about just a moment ago with the professional career portfolio, when I told him to connect with the person that he would be interviewing with, he said, "Elizabeth, you're asking me to do what? I do not even know this individual yet." And I said to him, I said, "Jim, this is going to be really helpful to you because they're going to know, they're going to have seen your profile, so they'll know more about you right there. And then they know that you are actually doing the research, and they want to know that a client is really, that an employee is going to be linking up with their clients and really learning what's going about them more when they interact." So he went ahead, he connected on LinkedIn, and this was another reason that his interview was so comfortable as a new college grad. He has professional career portfolio, and he had connected with the person he was interviewing with, and they were really impressed that he had actually done that. So today what we say, often when in the past when you would go to networking meetings and speak with people, that would be really the first time that you would shake hands. But today with the internet, your virtual handshake happens before you ever meet the person in person. And that's why you really do want to have that created exactly as you want it. And LinkedIn really has made this very easy. They have free LinkedIn learning webinars. They have ones on part 1 on creating online presence, your LinkedIn network, and LinkedIn specifically for the job search, which many of you may want to check out. And then another quick overview here. This is specifically about how LinkedIn can help you find and land the right job. And there's the advanced search tool, building the professional network, asking for recommendations. This is super important that you get branded, and your recommendations will help people know that you're a specialist in the area that you want to be a specialist with, and also endorsements are really important. And taking part in groups. So finding and joining groups is really important, and that's a way that you're able to connect with others in your field as well. And many people ask me about the very last item at the bottom of the page, that often they have coworkers that they're connected with on LinkedIn, and they're asking, so is there a way that I can hide what I'm doing from those people? And there definitely is. And this part of LinkedIn will help share with you how to conduct your job search privately on LinkedIn. On the advanced people search tool, just really quick, so working with a client, they wanted to find a financial analyst at General Mills. You want to be sure and click all relationships that you might have. We clicked that, and there were 145 that came up in their particular zip code. Now, located under this location on the second, just up on the left side of your screen, second from the bottom where it says location, you can click on the lower arrow, and then you can actually insert your zip code. And it will show you right there who would be close that you could connect with. And I want to give a shout out to John Ruzick, Senior Director of Alumni Networks here, who organizes many of these webinars for the University of Minnesota in his position. And he did a really phenomenal LinkedIn, Making the Most of LinkedIn Open Q&A webinar on October 29th. And I highly encourage everyone who's listening here today to also go back and listen to that webinar, because it goes even further about how to join groups, how to get into all these things because the entire time is spent specifically on LinkedIn. So I've mentioned already about connections, recommendations, endorsements. They are really the thing that helps people know who you're connected to, how they know you, and the endorsements and recommendations, again, really show your specialty. Now, I wanted to share with you, because people, of course, always say to me, Elizabeth, I've been searching for a job for a long time. Things just aren't working. What else can I be doing? So I wanted to share this information that is copyrighted in the 2015 books, career books, and these are the statistics that we have most current for how the fastest way to land interviews. And number one is this creating your own sales force, that you want to network and connect, and 33 to 58% of the time that will meet with success in getting you interviews and landing a job. Then the other thing you can do is target market to top firms that you know you want to work for. And you've been applying online, but it seems like things that you're just not getting seen that way. So I actually have clients where they will map out in their area the companies that they'd like to work for. They've actually found the position online, and they will specifically make the match in their materials to that position, and they will drive to each of, let's say, those 5 locations in a day. They'll map it out, they'll drive to each of those locations. And one individual I remember distinctly, 2 of the places that he went to, one of them, the building was no longer open. There was actually yellow tape around the outside of the building, and it was obvious that they did not have anyone working there, and yet it was listed that that was the place that the person would be working once they got the job. So he said, wow, that was really helpful because I knew not to wait to hear back from them, because obviously, he said, I would have been waiting thinking like, why didn't they contact me? I'm a perfect person for this position. And here it was that the building didn't exist. And then another one was somewhat similar. And the other 3, it was really interesting. He went in to the building, and one of the people at the front desk said, oh, I think the HR person is available right now. I'm going to check with them to see if they might want to talk with you right away. It came back that they couldn't talk with them right then, but they set up an interview for the next day. One of the other places that they went, the person did talk with them right then, and then they also had another interview set up. So from preparing 5 resumes, cover letters, and going directly, it had 3 interviews. And of course, you can guess, they were pretty excited about that particular Monday that they did this. Now, many people will say today, well, lots of the large buildings are secured, you're not able to get in them. And I really smile about this because another individual, when they used this approach and were just tired of applying online and not getting responses, they went to the door, and of course the security guard came out. And this I just think was so cute. The security guard, asked why they were there, and then very politely said, and did do this because they were able to see the individual turn and take it to the front desk. They really nicely said, oh, I'll be happy to take your materials in for you. So the other thing I want you to know is people today really want to help one another land a job. And they know at some point they may need help, and even people within the same career field and going after the same position will help one another. Because if they don't land the job, then they know that there's then a person working at that company who will maybe be hiring another person on that staff and would know about them. And it's really a mutual helping of one another. So this taking materials directly there does work, and it is really the top overall success thing to actually do that. So between networking and taking materials there, it's really helpful. Then there are job clubs and state and federal employment services. 14 to 38% success, and recruiters and staffing agencies 5 to 28%. And I'm betting some of you are probably already knowing the answer to this question. What is not on this list? And you notice applying online does not appear on this list. So there you have it. These are the top things to do for the fastest way to actually get to landing an interview. Now often people will ask me, How should I network, Elizabeth? I don't know what to do or where to go. I'm not going to go through this entire mind map. This is created by one of my colleagues in Australia, and believe me, there are so many ways to connect and network, and no matter what your personality style, you can definitely find a way to do it to build a really important network. Then another technique for preparing prior to interviews is actually thinking about how could I go about actually creating my perfect position within a company. So these are two very important questions that I have people ask. I've had people actually do this when they're waiting in line at a theater or another performance, and people are just waiting in line. And they'll start a conversation with the person in front of them, exchange some niceties, and then they'll find out a little bit more about where they work or what department they're in. And then they'll ask the question, what need or problem is your department or company facing at this time? So they're getting a really important piece of information. And so they then will, they'll find out what that is. They may find out that the company has many departments and they used to have a person who coordinated and was really the filter between keeping all of the different 4 departments connected. But they've let that person go, and guess what? They've realized that they really need someone in that position. And so if they're a person who can fill that role, all the better, and they go ahead and actually apply and get the job to bring back that position. A magic question that really helps you continue to expand your network of contacts, and you really want to keep your contacts organized, really continue to stay in touch with individuals throughout your entire career. And this is the question: are there 2 other people you know who would be helpful to me in my career research? And then, this is the really important one: may I use your name to contact them? So at the top of your cover letter then, you would be able to say, Jim Smith gave me your name, and the minute they see a name at the top, I have had presidents of companies, heads of departments say to me, oh, I got this letter, and it had my name at the top. And because of that, I really felt I needed to respond, because I was going to see that individual who referred this person to me next week at a meeting. And so they will either immediately personally respond, or they will get someone else on their staff to respond. So it is one of these things that you always want to do in building your network, is to ask who else can be helpful. And this is what I want you to know about networking. Networking is truly about friendship. So you've got your smile, you've got your handshake, and it's about getting to know one another so that you can continue the relationship. It's, as I've mentioned, continuously showing up, speaking about what they want to hear about. So are you one of these interesting people who is able to do that? Rather than speaking so much about yourself, if you're interested in them and asking questions of them, it's really a win-win. And career success truly is directly proportional to how much fun you are having. So be sure to have lots of fun in this process.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Can I just insert one question that came in that's kind of related to that?
Perfectly.
Yeah, one of our alums wrote in that he's in mid-career transition, and that the question is, how do you keep up that enthusiasm, especially kind of during this process, as far as either applying or going to interviews, and that the whole process can be kind of wearing at times. So how do you coach people to keep up that enthusiasm, or that kind of faith to keep going along?
Yes, because as I showed in the quote at the top of my presentation, enthusiasm is the engine of success. And so for each person, it's really different. Sometimes if people will know to take breaks and go and either just take a walk, go to a park, nature seems to really calm people down, and then they can go back and say, really stay in the game, really keep persistence, patience, and it will come. So, and also if you can put together a small group of really avid supporters of you, And whenever you're feeling like, oh, I really need a boost of energy, how can I get my charge back to really stay at this, that you know that you can talk to particular people that really understand and that they will give you that positivity to get back into the game. So I really hope that helps, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one of the first things that seems to happen today is that companies are doing lots of phone interviewing. And this is really quite interesting because it is truly the time to really soar. And yet I will tell you, as you see below this seagull here, this is no time to wing it. And yet I have to tell you the number of times that clients will say to me, oh, I don't need to prepare for that, I'm just going to wing it. Well, I will tell you, this is way too important to ever just wing it. In fact, as I was just watching the beginning of the Golden Globe Awards and the media was interviewing the actor nominees as they came in for the awards, they were asking them the question, have you prepared your acceptance speech? And it was interesting how many of them said, well, the very first time I got to come, I did not prepare my award acceptance remarks. And so I was up there, I was stammering, I really wasn't prepared. And ever since, I always prepare. Yes, I'm ready and I'm prepared with my acceptance speech. So know that whenever you get a phone interview, this is really something to prepare for. And it's so easy because you're able to have all your information right out in front of you at your desk. You're not yet in front of the person, so your notes can be ready and you can respond. The recruiters and interviewers do immediately spot those who are not prepared. So they can hear it right away that this person just is not prepared. So is this how they're going to do their work? And you do need to specifically prepare for each opportunity, and I'll be speaking a bit more here yet about how to go about doing that. And you want to focus on quantifiable results. So I'm a project manager who increased productivity by 30% in 3 months. So you really captured their attention right away, particularly this individual was applying for a project management position, and then go on to step back and tell the beginning and middle of the story and the end of the story. So you really hook the phone interviewer with knowing that you're the perfect person and then come back to it with more information. Now, preparing for the most asked questions in job interviews, I have put on my website, elcglobal.com, a free copy of the 12 most asked questions in job interviews. So you do not need the 300 most asked questions or the 500 most asked questions. Literally, I have been using this list for over 20 years, and clients continue to tell me when they're able to answer these 12 questions, they are able to answer every question that they get in an interview, except for those behavioral questions that have now been added. And so I definitely want you to go, I'm going to have this up for the next week. So after this webinar, jump on over there and get those 12 most asked questions in an interview. So what are some of those questions that are on the list? I chose just a few of them to share with you here. What were some of the items in your job that you feel you have done particularly well, and what are the reasons you feel this way? What do you want from your next job that you're not getting from your present position? What are the reasons you're interested in this position? And it is amazing how many people have no clue. It's like they're going after it, and when I even ask them in preparation, so what are the reasons you're interested in the position? And they just kind of halt and stop and aren't able to answer it. So you want to be ready. What do you feel you would offer this organization? This is why you've done the research on the company. You want to really be able to shine in that way. Now, prior to today's presentation, I asked some of the participants who were going to be here today on the call wanted some of the questions that they wanted me to actually speak about during this presentation. And number one interview question that you definitely want to be ready to answer is the tell me about yourself question. And what people often do is they'll go back and they'll start telling a story about their whole life. They're not really certain what to talk about. And what I want you to know is that the interviewer is really asking the question, tell me about yourself in relationship to the position you're applying for. So any of the stories or information that you're sharing, you want to show how it really relates to the job that you will be doing. And it needs to address this question: what do you have to offer the company in the specific position you're applying for? So be sure to keep that in mind, so you're keeping that tell me about yourself response shorter, clearer, and really to the point, because they just really want to know, is this the right person to hire for this job? Then this is the question that people ask me often, how am I going to respond to this? Why are you looking for a new job? Now, this answer, of course, particularly varies with everyone. So in this example, I have specific expertise that could be helpful to grow this department in your firm. I've exceeded goals by 30% over and over and wanted to take the same success to a new product line. Now, I want to respond right here too in relationship to numbers, figures, percentages. Companies, of course, really like to see that, particularly in certain business analyst positions or others where numbers, figures, facts, and percentages are a huge part of it. And so often the people who have been in creative positions or haven't been able to get numbers, facts, and figures, percentages, they'll say to me, so Elizabeth, you know, what can I possibly put down? So what you can do is really bring in quotes of what people have said about you, things in that way that really work. There are other ways that you can actually move around that so that you do show information. And then this question, why do you want to leave that position? So why are you leaving your current position when in this case the person's only been there less than a year? And this was a response that we came up with. It's been great learning in a new product sales environment. I would like to bring my skill in increasing new product purchases by 50% to your firm's more established product line. So again, it's the stepping back just a moment and thinking about it so that you are able to answer these, and again, throughout the process, make exactly the match to the position. Now, the ISEEK ISEEK.org is Minnesota's career education and resource portal, and it provides so much information. I wanted you to be sure and know about it, because often this will help you know what you would want to make the match with and provide some information there. So in talking about making the match, one of the things that people often forget to do is to really take each position that they're applying for and make the match in the top half of the first page of your resume. And when I spoke about earlier about the professional career portfolio, you are going to want to, even though you may have applied with a different resume or provided that to a person and then have the interview, you want to create a new resume that actually makes the match even better to the position, because you now know more about it once you're going for the interview. And you'll notice that the information at the top, your contact information, first and last name, your email, your LinkedIn URL, and your phone number is only taking up 2 spaces. And the reason you want that is that you need to give them really solid information in the top half of the first page in order to continue in the process. So you'll notice the title, exact title of the position you're going after goes there, and then the keywords, and then you would work on through the rest of what you would do on your resume. Now I'm going to spend a bit more time on the cover letter, because this seems to be one of the even more challenging things for people to know what to do. Again, you're going to keep, you know, your information really short at the top. Again, the exact position you're going after, because this immediately says to people, oh yes, they know what job they're applying for. This is great. Whenever possible, you want to use the name of the person. You want to let them know that you're excited for the potential to work there. And then this is the next part that gets really easy. Take just 3 to 5 to 6 of the most important things that you have done that really relate to the position, and just highlight those things. Recognize as a continuous learner with multiple certifications, and then you'd list those. You know, that you have awards, and then get right into, can we meet to discuss in detail how your qualifications fit? And again, end with their knowing exactly your first and last name, your phone number, your email, and your LinkedIn URL. So it's right there.
Elizabeth?
Yes, John.
Can I ask, we had a couple people ask a similar question that I wanted to run by you, kind of asking to expand on examples that one can use when a candidate might not have quantitative examples in an interview, somebody, or if you're struggling to identify some, like such as if your organizational department hasn't grown and has been flat, or you're just kind of that general struggle of how do you come up with quantifiable examples or results. So any thoughts on that?
Thank you so much for that question, John. In fact, I'm really glad I'm on this slide as you're asking that question. So some of the other things that you can talk about is really how you've done additional up-to-date learning with certifications that are in the field that you've been awarded. So you can often get top awards, and that doesn't have anything involved with numbers, facts, figures, or percentages. That again, the achievement goals that you had from your performance reviews. That's the other great thing. So you can look at your performance review and say, I've done this exact work for the last 5 years, and these are some of the things that our clients have said. So all of those things are really great ways to quantify it as well. Does that help?
Yes, and one other participant had a question about, I think it's probably a recent grad, but how do you frame, like if you're basically interviewing for your first job out of school, how's the best way to frame that situation in an interview as far as probably talking about experience and results?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, John. This one is really good. What I will tell you, this is the reason it is so important for people when they are in college to do internships and to volunteer. You definitely need to get experience while you're taking your coursework. And I can't tell you how important that is, because the internships and any volunteerism is really equal to the same thing as having done work on the job. And that way you then, in fact, do have examples. So I tell people immediately, if they haven't already been doing any volunteering or had internships, that you definitely can create your own. And there are so many everywhere today, because if you, for example, if you wanted to be a financial analyst, you could go and volunteer for the Junior Achievement, and you would be able to, do exactly the line of work that you want to be in. So it's like choosing, or any of the nonprofits. We've got over 52 nonprofits in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area alone, and they are truly everywhere in the world, that you could go into any organization that you have a passion about and actually get that experience, so you do have something to talk about as a new college graduate. So thanks so much for that question too. Oh, the thing, before I move from the cover letter, what I want to mention to you as to what to do with this is this cover letter, certainly when you're applying online and you upload your resume and your cover letter, and they do want to see cover letters, so don't overlook that. They are really, really helpful today, as much as some people say, oh, I'm just not doing a cover letter, but it really helps you then bring out those places where you shine. Now, if in fact you are replying to a recruiter and also to individuals within the firm, and I want to mention this too, whenever you're going to be interviewed somewhere or going after a job in a company, you want to see who else you may know in that firm. So let's say that there's a job that you would like, you know a person in the firm. If you first send your information to the person who works in the firm, certainly if you can, give them a phone call first And then in the subject line, you'd say, excellent candidate for, put the job name and the number. So what then happens is that you are actually being referred in. What happens if you apply through the normal application route that the corporation might have, then the individuals inside are not able to actually refer you in. And a referral in is always going to place you in a much better probability of getting an interview and getting hired, because companies literally, they will hire people with even slightly less skills than what they want and capabilities, because of the person being referred in will actually work harder and will do a better job because they really, really want to shine. So all of the research is bearing that out in the employee engagement research that's being done. If you're sending to a recruiter, what you would want to do with this cover letter is that this content would actually be the email. So it would be the email content, and then you're just attaching one thing, your resume, because recruiters are going through so many, they want to be able to proceed quickly. And knowing your value. I want to move to that here because this is so important, and you want to know the benefits that you want. So how do you go about knowing your value? And we'll talk about that in just a second after I share with you this quote from Jean Chatzky. She, of course, is the Today Show finance person and has been doing a lot with the career area. In fact, the reason I spoke about LinkedIn as early as I did in today's presentation is that her #1 tip for the new year was that people have their LinkedIn profile totally up to date. And I'll tell you also to be sure and have your contact information current. Recently, there was a company trying to contact an individual, and they did not have a current email as the contact information in their LinkedIn profile. So they, of course, corrected that right away. So, and the 3 sites that I have on the right, Glassdoor.com is the one that recruiters use the most to figure out what compensation is for a particular job in a firm. Payscale.com is what this quote is going to be from, and then Salary.com are really the best 3 places to know your money value and what you want to go after. So Jean said here in this quote from her blog, yes, asking for more money can be downright uncomfortable, but know that it's worth the nerves. A recent PayScale survey found 44% of people who went for a raise received exactly what they asked for. Now, 44% received exactly what they asked for. Another 31% of people received a raise too. It was just less than what they were shooting for. So look at that, 75% of the people got more than what they would have if they had not negotiated. So you don't want to be afraid to negotiate benefits, and sometimes it can actually be more personal time off that you would want instead. So I recently had a client, and her husband had 30 days vacation. She knew where she was interviewing. They only ever got 2 weeks. No one, no matter how long they worked there, ever had more than 2 weeks. But she did not want more salary. What she wanted was any few days, 1, 2, 3 days, more days vacation, personal time off was really what she wanted. So she was going to only ask for a couple days, and I said, no, go for it. Ask for a week. They did not even blink, and they gave her a week. Even though the vice president interviewing her only had 2 weeks vacation, here this brand new employee then had 3 weeks vacation. So she was just really a happy camper. So start negotiating, no regrets on that. And I want to really highlight this upcoming April 7th webinar on minnesotaalumni.org webinars. Steve Helland and I did connect with him on LinkedIn as soon as I saw this, and he was so thrilled that I was speaking in this webinar about negotiation. He said, kudos, Elizabeth, more people need to be telling people to do that. The title of his webinar that's coming up here on April 7th, How to Negotiate Your Starting Salary, Inside Tips and Mythbuster webinar. So highly encourage you to jump on and take part in that as well. Then, thank you notes. I have to tell you how important thank you notes are. They make all the difference. So, thank you notes, both written on the fold-over card and also by email immediately after the interview and immediately after anyone helps you in this process. So what I had this new college graduate, since the new college graduate asked a question, thank you, and mid-career professionals too. I told him, this is my Jim, I told him, okay, I want you to have fold-over thank you notes right after you walk out of the building. Sit down wherever you can, in your car, on a bench, wherever you might be, and write a thank you note, and then turn right around and walk back in to the company to give this to the receptionist to then route through inner office to the people who you interviewed with that day. And there were 4 people who he'd interviewed with. So he again said to me, really, Elizabeth? That seems really awkward. I said, just go forth, do it. He did it. He then again, he was just smiling. You can hear the smile on my face as I'm thinking about this. He said, Elizabeth, it was great. I walked back in and the receptionist said, oh, hi Jim, it's great to see you again. So he got face value again with a person who was at the front door, and again, this is the one who landed and started work as a brand new college graduate on January 4th. So they are very important. And I have a whole chapter in my book, Don't Slurp Your Soup, A Basic Guide to Business Etiquette, on thank you notes, chapter with examples of what to say there.
Elizabeth?
I want you to know that it, yes. Go ahead, John.
We have about 4 minutes, so I just wanted to see if you wanted to finish off some slides, or we do have some questions, and I could put those out, but just wanted to get your preference. I
have just 4 quick slides, and then I'd love to take quotes, or okay. Love to take questions, yes.
Okay, yeah, and for people who are online, if you can stick with us after 1 o'clock, feel free to. We will take questions for those who are still online. So the webinar will not end immediately at 1. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Happy about that, John. Thanks. I want you to know that it's never too late to land your best job ever, no matter how young you are or how old you are. And yes, this is a 91-year-old woman who at 90 applied to the Silicon Valley design firm IDEO and goes from her assisted living facility on a bus and is creating designs that are helping people in the second half of life. So no matter how young or how old. And with every risk, when the earlier question was asked, you know, how do I get my energy up to keep going for it? With risk equals reward. So don't stop whenever you face an obstacle. At the very next second, things can completely change. And I've seen this over and over again. You want to have that perseverance, endurance, and determination. And as Jordan Spieth, who has the Yoda quote, do or do not do, on his golf bag, says, I want to win, and so I'm going to play my game, obviously with patience. I'm going to play to win. Each of you is a unique experiment of one. How you do this process and what will work for you is, in fact, different. And so from today, I want you to look at the top 3 actions that you now have in your mind that you will take following this special presentation, and sit down and actually put a date as to when you will complete it. So thank you, John. I'm ready for any other questions. And the reason setting the date is so important is that it's been shown that the top 1% are the people who do set dates and achieve what they really want in their life and career.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I echo that, Elizabeth. So you see the slide here as far as Elizabeth's website, and what I'll do is I'll just throw out some questions and we'll maybe do a quick lightning round. And so one person had said, as far as the tell me about yourself question, that she saw advice once to say, describe yourself in like 3 words, so like hardworking, people focused, etc., so that you grab the interviewer's attention. Do you feel that's a good strategy?
Oh yes, that sounds like that would be a great strategy. Just like you have, if you have your signature words, my signature word is enthusiasm. So when you know that, it really tells them a lot quickly in 3 words. So certainly that would be a great approach to use. In fact, you can go ahead and try it and see if it works. Then you'll know you want to use it again. If it doesn't work for you and there's some question about it from the other, then you wouldn't try something else. So one never knows what works.
Sure. What everyday habits would you recommend in order to build a positive professional reputation?
Do the very best job every single day, and that you really do need to think, look, and act like a winner in every single way and in every single place, and really be that giving person. Adam Grant, Wharton professor, wrote the book Give and Take, and really giving. And I have had people volunteer at places like Habitat for Humanity, Feed My Starving Children, or the MS Write-a-thon, which are the top 3 volunteer organizations I've found that are the most helpful, because almost every company really wants people involved in either all 3 or one of those 3. Companies today have 20% of an employee's performance is really based on what they've given in the community. And I'll have a person who'll work on a Habitat home, and they'll come back home, and they will have worked with 4 people at 4 different companies and had the best connections. So.
One person writes that they're trying to transition from being an educator, so how do they sell their organizational and communication skills to a company seeking a mid-level professional position?
What you'd want to do with that is to read through the position, and then there's usually 2 or 3 words in each position description opening that are spaced throughout, so you'll know really what they're looking for. And those would become then your key words. So if in fact those are things that you know you can do well, you're going to want to utilize those, and then think of your examples. So what were circumstances where you did that, what were actions that you took, and what were the results? And when you can really get those into short statements, people are in fact able to make transitions. I've seen some amazing transitions take place.
Do you recommend listing a desired salary range in the cover letter in order to save your time and the interviewer's time, as far as if your salary range was out of whack? Do you recommend putting that in your own cover letter?
Quick answer here for this lightning round, John, absolutely not. Now, there are certain ones that basically they want to know the salary, so that then whether or not you're in the range. So if the question is asked in that way, then usually you have to say something, and then this is where you would want to go to the 3 links that I showed, the payscale.com, salary.com, and the other one, payscale, salary.com, and Glassdoor for sure. And then determine what seems to be the salary range that would be on that position, and then choose within that range what you feel would be the most logical, either for you to land or what you would really want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Is there any, other than like LinkedIn or perhaps calling the company directly to find out who the hiring manager is, do you have any other suggestions as far as best way to identify those the hiring managers for these positions? One of our alums had said this seems to be one of the biggest challenges these days, is finding out who the actual hiring manager is.
Yes, though in many ways it's gotten easier now than what it was for a long time, because often you can go to the corporate website and you can actually see listed who is in various departments. This is where LinkedIn would work really well for you, where in that advanced search tool where you would put in the HR, the company, and then it would pull up names, and they're often then on LinkedIn, so it's probably going to be the easiest.
Elizabeth, do you have time for like 1 or 2 more questions?
I sure do.
Okay. Here's another one. How do you go about explaining the gap from graduation to starting work? Or I guess sometimes, even in this sense, sometimes there can be a gap as far as returning to work. So the root of the question was, how much of a gap can be reasonable, and how do you kind of overcome that gap in the interview process, or how do you position that?
Thank you for that question. Yes, gaps. Basically, what you want to do, this is where the volunteering would really help, or creating, basically they just want to know, well, so what were you doing during that time? And even there are people, for some of the mid-career professionals in particular, their gap may be because they had an older parent that needed caregiving, And they often say to me, well, Elizabeth, I don't want to put that in there. And yet there are a lot of skills and a lot of things that take place when you are, in fact, that care helper for an older parent. And so many people are compassionate today, they don't mind hearing about that. And so you can describe that in that particular place. So try to kind of combine doing something that would be volunteer for an organization that would fit in with your field that you either want to transition to or ongoingly be in. And they really just want to know what you were doing. So do fill that space. It's difficult to leave, and particularly longer gaps. Oh, and the other thing I should mention, on any of the materials, you really only want to go back 15 years. You don't want to go further back than that. And so actually with some of my clients that actually have a lot of gaps throughout their career history, we'll try to chunk it and actually put things within a larger range of time, and yet it will all be truth what's certainly in that area of time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And last question.
Yeah.
One person writes in, if you do not get a job offer after interviewing, is it appropriate to contact the HR person to create a relationship with that person for future jobs at the company?
Really, thank you for that question. Oh, definitely. You want to stay in contact, because I can't tell you how many times that the company would actually hire someone and they might work there for 3 months or 6 months, and either they decided that, oh, this isn't a job fit for me, and leave, and they actually will call back one of my clients who had interviewed for that job and say, hey, are you still available? We really liked you when you interviewed. Would you be available to come and land the job? And they are just like, you know, so excited that this is cool. So yes, you definitely want to stay in contact with those people, because obviously they really liked you. They brought you in. You interviewed with them. And so definitely stay in contact, see what other positions either are similar to that you could also jump in and take.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, absolutely, I agree. I think I found, especially the number of recruiters who are on LinkedIn, and especially if that recruiter was maybe the one who initiated contact with you first, those are always good people to keep in your network, and just, you know, even if you're, you know, following them on LinkedIn or you're connected in on LinkedIn, you can see oftentimes those recruiters are pushing out the jobs that they're trying to recruit for. So that's a really good way to keep one's ear to the ground for future opportunities.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today, and for your insights. And again, if people are interested in learning more about Elizabeth's work or the 12 questions that she lists on her website, that's at elcglobal.com. So thank you again, Elizabeth. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and I really appreciate the time and expertise that you've provided to our audience today.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you all for being here, and wishing you the best of luck in 2016. It's your year.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth. And that concludes today's webinar. If you are on social media or want to connect with us or learn more, here's some of our LinkedIn groups. We talked a little bit about LinkedIn today. So if you want to see ways to get connected U-wide with some of our U-wide groups, our Alumni Association group has over 30,000 people in it. Our collegiate units also have a lot of great LinkedIn groups. Good way to make connections. Check us out, or just more information at our website, minnesotaalumni.org. And in closing, members of the Alumni Association make initiatives like this webinar series possible. Thank you for your support. Because of members, we can enrich the lives of alumni, support student success, and make a better University of Minnesota. So if you're interested in being an Alumni Association member, you can learn more at minnesotaalumni.org/join. And that's the conclusion of today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Elizabeth Craig, and wishing you all a wonderful day.